My wedding was a nightmare. I got married on November of 2024 and it was a total nightmare. When my husband and I finally chose a venue after months of touring, we felt pretty confident about the choice. The owner was extremely sweet and excited about hosting our wedding. She wanted to be our coordinator and officiant because she loved our Day of the Dead theme. We toured a second time and went over our vision/expectations before agreeing and working on a contract. Her enthusiasm about everything was great. We immediately got to work on table setup, colors, flower arrangements, lighting, music, ceremony, because I didn't want to worry about anything last minute. Our wedding was a few months away and I wanted to just check off important things early. I felt pretty stress-free up until 2 months before the wedding. I started to notice a pattern of last-minute decisions by our coordinator. Including having us drive out an hour to the venue only to cancel on a meeting once we were already there. She did that twice. Every time I brought up concerns she would shut it down and say she had everything under control and didn't want us to worry about it. 3 weeks before the wedding she casually mentioned she would be gone for 2 weeks in Italy and that made me feel nervous because we hadn't done rehearsal for our ceremony. She started pushing things off saying we could go over final touches the Friday before our wedding. While she was gone, her assistant scheduled 2 drop-off dates the week of our wedding so that we can drop off all of our stuff. I had handmade all our party favors, decor, centerpieces, and we ordered our own cups, plates, silverware, chargers, table runners, because the venue didn't have our colors, which was just black and red. We also had to order our own table company because the venue didn't have large tables. Which wasn't a huge deal. Anyway, on our first drop-off, our coordinator did not communicate with anyone so we were being turned away with half our stuff. Her sister happened to be there and called her and they finally let us move our things inside. As we were leaving, they told us we had to go back in and move all our things out and leave it in a dirt lot and someone will later move it into the building. That was confusing and it was raining so I didn't want to leave half my wedding items out in the dirt. They owned a few of the buildings next door and had garages so I wasn't sure why they scheduled this drop-off with no place to accommodate our stuff. We had asked if our next drop-off date would have space for the rest of our things and they assured us that because the next drop-off date was the day before the wedding, they would already be decorating so we could see the venue set up. The day before our wedding, our coordinator called to cancel the drop-off and rehearsal because she decided to throw a last-minute event. Also that she was revising our ceremony script that she had me write for her months in advance. She also said that the music we chose for our Feierdancer and Aerialist months ago, would not be able to be performed because we didn't pay a 700.00 fee to have them dance to music of our choice. I asked why this was never mentioned when we selected dancers and music. She also said that even though we paid a fee to have them wash our dishes, she wasn't told about having to wash them so if we were planning to pick them back up, wash them and drop them off again. My now husband told her no. That she charged us a fee in order to wash our dinnerware and they need to uphold that or refund that money. She promised they would have it done and that we can have our ceremony rehearsal early on Saturday. So it's now Saturday, our wedding day. Once again our coordinator calls to cancel our drop-off time. She says she doesn't want us getting in the way while her and her team work. That there is nothing to worry about and we need to just relax. She says to come in 2 hours before the wedding instead. I tell her no, I have half of our wedding items so how are they even going to set up properly? I have table runners, place cards, guest book, wedding sign, table decor, half the centerpieces, we still need to rehearse and go over our ceremony in her revisions of the ceremony script. She continues to insist we come in 2 hours before the wedding. I was stressing out big time because I didn't feel that was enough time to do everything. When we got to the venue, a little past 4 p.m. because of traffic on a weekend in LA, it was a shit show. 1. The parking spots they promised us were all taken by her staff. Since there was no venue parking besides 7 spots behind the venue, our coordinator promised us those spots for our family and caterers. She said her and her team would park in the lot inside the venue. Well, we all had to find random parking and carry all our stuff a few times. Inside, they were still cleaning up from the last-minute event and there was no decor. All the tables were full of random items and boxes, some had our table covers all knotted together, some had plates and cups scattered, some had all the chargers in piles. Tables and chairs in the wrong spots, our dishware and silverware still in boxes unwashed. I got so lucky that my parents had arrived at the same time with my cake and it was all hands on deck. Weirdly, my coordinator and her team decided to all go into the bar and do their makeup while my husband, our children, my parents, sisters and sister-in-law set up everything. We first had to clear out all the mess and boxes on all the tables, then set the tables and chairs in the right place. Our coordinator didn't even remember what our tablecloth colors were. My mom put them down while my sisters put down runners, my other sister and dad put down the plate chargers while my husband and brother-in-law put down plates and cups. Kids were rolling up napkins. My sister-in-law notices some cups are super sticky and thinks they've been used, so she asks the bartender if they can wash them. They got very upset but did end up washing them. 30 plates were missing, so we had to call my mother-in-law to run to a Target and bring us black plates to try and match what we already had. All caterers were calling me and I had to keep stopping what I was doing to guide them in, tell them where to park, tell them where to set up because my coordinator was too busy still working on her makeup. My husband goes upstairs to the control room to double-check lighting and music and realizes that our coordinator never gave them any info. They have no idea what music we're walking down to, what our wedding playlist is. Our coordinator comes upstairs and says she forgot to open the email with all that information. So my husband needs to go over all of that with them. We tell her we need to rehearse now and she agrees but then disappears, so we have to look for her. It is now past 7:30 p.m. and our wedding was supposed to start at 6 p.m. I'm livid that we are behind and my coordinator and her team are MIA. I'm panicking. Throwing up. Doing my best to keep it together. We have zero time for pre-wedding pictures like we had originally planned. Our rehearsal was like 5 minutes long. Our guests have been lined up outside in the cold waiting this entire time. One of the staff members finally decides to put up our wedding sign outside and decorate the walkway, in front of our guest. Highly embarrassed. We tell our coordinator that they need to start letting people in because we paid for 3 hours of food service and it's almost 8 p.m. and they're leaving at 9 p.m. She disappears again and my husband and I are waiting behind the stage to walk down the aisle. After 15 minutes we don't hear our cues, so we peer our heads and no one had entered the venue yet. My husband is now pissed and runs out to the front and tells the doorman to let everyone inside. He says our coordinator said not to. My husband says they need to come in now because we're 2 hours behind schedule. He runs back inside and we wait again. This time they're only letting 10 people at a time. My husband tells the doorman again to please just let the line in. Originally the whole plan was to let 10 at a time because in order to get into the venue you have to go into a cool lobby and go through a bookcase. The lobby had our guest book where guest had time to sign it. We clearly had no time to let everyone experience the lobby and sign the guest book. Finally everyone is inside. Our ceremony was a hot mess. Officiant/coordinator was reading the script off a huge tablet. It felt like the first time she's seen it. I'm not even sure what her revisions were because she was stumbling over all the words. She also stood behind the groom's table, so when we did our hand binding ceremony, she couldn't reach us, knocked down candles from our table. After the hand binding we were to light up a unity candle, but she didn't have the lighter, so we awkwardly had to ask guests if anyone had a lighter on them. She knocked down the unity candle onto me. This was exactly why I kept pressing a proper ceremony rehearsal. Everything was a mess. After the ceremony, she disappeared again. She was to make announcements throughout the night, dinner, cake cutting, slideshow, games, but I had to do that because she was nowhere to be found. Our aerialist left before even performing because she was supposed to go on at 8 p.m. and we obviously didn't even get people seated till 8 p.m. Our 6-hour wedding became a 3-hour wedding. While people were still mingling and having dessert, she had the table company start picking up tables and chairs. So our guests started to leave. We didn't get to do any dancing. Once the night was over, she avoided us while we helped clean up. We stayed an extra hour helping her staff collect dishware and silverware. Fold table covers, runners, clean food off the floors. The next day we had to come back and pick up our things. Our stuff was left in the dirt lot, all over the floor. All the missing items were here too, party favors my mom brought from Mexico, the 30 missing plates, plastic goblets for the kids' table, dessert plates, our shot glasses. It was clear that when we dropped off our stuff days before, nothing was kept together or accounted for. The venue completely ghosted us. No thank you for using the space. For helping clean. We sent an email telling them what we weren't happy with and that we think we are due to some compensation. 2 weeks later they declined and named random fees they never mentioned before, but that we didn't pay for, so that's why they didn't do proper coordinating. It really made no sense. Anyway. All our guests loved all the decorations we made and put up. Loved how elegant and gothic the vibe was. My husband and family really put off a really nice looking wedding. We went to Puerto Rico for a week and it helped forget this awful experience.